Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really try to cut through the noise and get straight to the fascinating core of complex topics. Today, we're diving headfirst into some truly ancient mysteries. We're looking at alternative creation narratives.
Yeah, specifically exploring a really mind-bending collection of sources centered around the Nag Hammadi scriptures.
Exactly, and one text in particular called On the Origin of the World. Our mission for you is to unpack these, well, hidden texts. They reveal a radically different perspective on how the universe was created, who the creators might be.
And even familiar figures from the Bible, right? Adam, Eve, Noah, they all appear, but sometimes in a very different light.
You've asked us to shed light on these, so we're ready to dig out some surprising nuggets of insight.
It's a captivating subject. I mean, these texts fundamentally challenge where we think knowledge comes from. And maybe more importantly, who gets to decide what becomes accepted as truth in our world? That's a big one.
Yeah.
So we're going to trace their discovery, which is a story in itself, look into why they were apparently suppressed for so long, and explore the unique cosmology they present. Get ready to rethink some very foundational ideas about existence.
Okay, let's unpack this from the beginning then. Our source material points to the Nag Hammadi scriptures, found in clay pots, hidden in caves in Egypt. For listeners maybe hearing about these for the first time, what exactly are these scriptures? What makes them so different?
Right, that's crucial. The Nag Hammadi Library, found back in 1945, it's mostly a collection of Gnostic texts. Now, Gnosticism, well, simply put, it was an early philosophical and religious movement around the time of early Christianity. And these texts offer a completely different view of God, creation, humanity's place, the whole cosmic picture.
Okay.
Many seem to have been copied around the 4th century CE. But what's really striking, and what our source emphasizes, is why they've only become accessible, relatively recently.
Right, thousands of years later.
Exactly. The source points to a deliberate suppression. It mentions certain religious factions, even the Vatican, reportedly doing their best to eliminate this alternative information.
Wow, okay, that's quite a claim. Deliberate suppression by powerful institutions. Does the source get into how that supposedly happened, or what the evidence is?
It doesn't detail the specific methods, no, but it frames it more as a historical effort, to consolidate and control the religious narrative. The idea is that once the dominant Christian canon, the 66 books we generally know as the Bible, was established, anything challenging that specific story was, well, pushed aside, marginalized, or even destroyed.
I see.
And this leads straight to those fundamental questions the source raises. Who picked those 66 books? How accurate are the translations we rely on? And what about other ways of understanding, like numerology, gematria, or even vibrational frequency, concepts the source mentioned in relation to understanding the word of creation, if other texts offer different words?
It implies there's potentially a much bigger, more complex story than the one most people are familiar with. Precisely.
It's genuinely mind-bending. So with that context, let's dive into On the Origin of the World, because it starts right off challenging a huge assumption, that nothing existed before chaos. What does this ancient scripture say came before chaos?
Yeah, this is where it immediately flips the script on cosmology. The prologue actually says, everyone, both the gods of the world and people, say that nothing existed before chaos. But then it promises to prove they all are wrong.
Okay, bold claim.
Very. It presents this radical inversion. Chaos isn't the beginning. It says chaos comes from a shadow, and it is shadow that has been called darkness.
A shadow.
And this shadow, it comes from something that has existed from the beginning. This primordial something is identified as the infinite light, the aeon of truth. From this pure source flows Sophia, a divine being linked to Pestis, which represents divine inspiration, faith.
Sophia. I've heard that name in Gnostic contexts. Yes, she's central. And here, she sort of acts as a veil separating humanity from the things above. So you see, darkness and chaos aren't the origin. They're just derivatives. Byproducts, almost, of something much older and brighter.
Okay, wow. So if chaos and darkness are just shadows, how does our world, our reality, come into being according to this text? It introduces a really central figure, Yaldabaoth. Our source calls him the chief creator, but importantly, not the ultimate divine force.
Yeah.
How does this archon, this lesser ruler, emerge? What's his origin story here?
Yaldabaoth's appearance is absolute pivotal. Sophia, the divine inspiration, she observes this chaotic, spiritless mass that emerged from her own deficiency, like a cosmic mistake or an unintended consequence.
Deficiency.
Yeah. And observing it disturbs her. Her disturbance itself then appeared as something frightful within that chaos.
Yeah.
Pestis Sophia then desires this spiritless thing to be made into a likeness of the divine and rule over matter.
So she wants to give it form and purpose.
Kind of. And from the waters of chaos, an archon appeared. Now, an archon in Gnosticism is a powerful ruler, but often flawed, definitely distinct from the ultimate God. This one is described as lion-like in appearance, androgynous, with great authority, but ignorant of where he came from. That being is Yaldabaoth.
Ignorant of where he came from, that seems key.
Absolutely crucial. Sophia names him Yaldabaoth, which the text says means, young man, move over here. But the deep irony is, Yaldabaoth is ignorant of the power of Pestis. He only sees her likeness reflected in the chaos and thinks he is the ultimate creator.
So she misinterprets his own reflection.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Believes himself to be the source, though the text adds that the perfect or enlightened beings call him Ariel. This fundamental ignorance sets the stage for a very, very different kind of creation story.
And our source raises a question, could Yaldabaoth be Yahweh, noting they're both described as jealous gods?
Right. The source points out similarities, like jealousy, which forces a reevaluation of those traditional divine characteristics. It's a provocative comparison.
It really is. Okay, so Yaldabaoth, powerful but ignorant, believes he's the top dog. A cosmic narcissist, almost. How does his creation proceed from that? Well, delusion. What kind of world does he make?
Exactly. His mindset is everything here. The text says Yaldabaoth only saw himself and nothing else except water and darkness. And because of that limited view, he thought that only he existed.
Wow.
So from that thought, and by means of the word, he starts creating, separating water and dry land, making heaven for himself, earth as a footstool, all from the pre-existing matter of chaos.
He's using the existing stuff, not creating from nothing.
Correct. And then he produces his own lineage, androgynous sons, also by means of the word. The text names them Yao, Eloi, and Ios, apparently named after their first sounds.
Oh.
He also makes 7 other androgynous beings in chaos. These are called the 7 powers, or 7 heavens of chaos. Each has a masculine and feminine name. Even Yaldabaoth has a feminine name, Forthotis, meaning the weak.
The weak. That's telling.
Isn't it? The whole creation process here isn't this benevolent, all-knowing act. It's born from arrogance, limitation, and deep ignorance of anything higher.
Given that supreme self-perception, it feels inevitable he declare himself the ultimate god. What happens when he does that? How do the real higher powers react?
That's the critical moment, yeah. After setting up his heavens and his powers, Yaldabaoth exalted himself and boasted, saying, I don't need anything. I am God, and there is no other but me.
There it is.
And according to our source, that declaration sinned against all the immortals, the true divine beings above him. Pestis Sophia, his ultimate origin, she becomes furious. But without Yaldabaoth seeing her, she rebukes him directly. She calls out, you are wrong, Samuel.
Samuel, not Yaldabaoth.
Samuel, which the text says means blind God. It's a powerful, direct insult highlighting his ignorance.
Wow. Blind God. That's potent.
And then she prophesies his downfall. She tells him, essentially, an enlightened, immortal human exists before you. You'll appear within the forms you shaped. Humans will trample upon you like clay, and you'll descend with your followers to the abyss.
So a prophecy of humanity ultimately overcoming him.
That's the implication. It also connects to another Gnostic text, the Secret Book of John, where Yaldabaoth later realizes Adam is actually greater than he after breathing Sophia's divine spark into him.
Which leads him to try and suppress Adam and Eve.
Exactly. It's this ongoing cosmic drama of ignorance versus enlightenment.
So Yaldabaoth's realm is founded on error and now marked by jealousy, too. How does that continue to shape his creations? What about things like death or demons?
It just cascades, really. The source explains his jealousy, specifically towards his own son, Sabbath, another archon, leads him to engender death from his own death.
He creates death itself out of jealousy.
Seems so. And this death is also described as androgynous, then had sex with himself, producing 7 more androgynous children.
Okay, this is getting complicated. And a bit disturbing.
It is. These children are basically personified negative forces: envy, wrath, grief on the male side, anger, pain, lust on the female.
So the origins of suffering.
Right. And then these 14 each conceive 7 more, leading to 49 androgynous demons.
49.
The source mentions their names and functions are referenced in the Book of Solomon, but notes a discrepancy with the 72 lesser keys number found in some later versions. But the main point here is how error and negativity just propagate downwards from Yaldabaoth's flawed nature, populating his creation with these forces.
This whole deep dive is painting such a different picture. creator is a blind demigod, death born of jealousy. What about paradise, then? Is it anything like the garden we typically imagine?
It really makes you question how much our narratives shape reality, doesn't
It
it?
does.
In this Gnostic text, paradise is reimagined too. It's not made by Yaldabaoth. It's created by justice.
Yeah.
It's described as beautiful, located outside the circuit of the moon and the circuit of the sun in a land of pleasure.
Outside our normal space-time, sort of.
Seems like it. And the tree of life is there, in the north, looking like the sun, offering immortality.
Okay, that sounds somewhat familiar.
But here's the big twist.
Yeah.
Right next to it is the tree of knowledge. It's described as glorious as the moon. And its purpose is not temptation or leading to a fall. It's explicitly intended to arouse the souls from demonic stupor so that they might come to the tree of life, eat its fruit, and condemn the authorities and their angels.
Wait, so the tree of knowledge is good. It's meant to wake people up.
Exactly. Its impact is stated clearly. You opened his mind, and he loved his female partner and condemned other strange figures, and he loathed them. Knowledge here is enlightenment. It's the path to the tree of life, the way to see past the Archon's deception. Not a fall from grace, but a step towards liberation.
That's a complete reversal.
Okay.
Profound. So if the tree of knowledge is about awakening, what about Adam and Eve in this paradise? Our source mentions something very different about Eve's creation and role.
Oh, this is maybe the most fascinating part. It completely reframes Eve's story. The authorities, Yaldabaoth and his Archons, they see Adam's body as alive, animated by that spark from Sophia, and they're troubled.
Because it contains true divinity.
Precisely. But then they see Eve, and they recognize her immediately as enlightened, resembling the higher divine feminine light. She's different.
We recognize her power.
Yes, and it panics them, so they conspire. Their plan is to seize her and ejaculate our semen into her so that she may be unclean and her children will serve us.
Horrifying.
Truly. And part of the plan is putting Adam to sleep, pretending Eve came from his rib, so the woman may serve and he may rule over her. The familiar narrative, but here it's presented as archontic deception.
Okay. But does it work?
Not on the real Eve. The text says Eve was a heavenly power. She literally laughed at what they had in mind.
She laughed at them.
Yes, in an act of, well, divine cunning, she blinded their eyes and secretly left something that resembled her with Adam, a sort of phantom Eve.
A decoy.
Exactly. And the real Eve, she entered the tree of knowledge and became a tree to them, hid herself within enlightenment, you could say.
Right.
Later, the blind powers, the Archons, they come back. They see the resemblance, the female like that woman with Adam, and they acted rashly, seizing and defiling that resemblance, not the true Eve.
So they defiled their own creation, essentially.
The text says they erred because they did not know they defiled their own body and likeness. This earthly Eve, the resemblance, she then bears the children of the powers.
That is completely different. Eve isn't the secondary creation or the source of the fall. She's this powerful, wise being who outsmarts the lower gods.
It's a profound shift, isn't it? It places the blame for humanity's troubles squarely on the ignorance and malice of the Archons and paints Eve as a figure of light and wisdom.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? As you navigate information, maybe question sources in your own life. This deep dive has shown us a completely different cosmology. A blind creator god, chaos as a secondary effect, Eve as a powerful, laughing, heavenly being.
Yeah, it really forces us to think about interpretation, about how many paths there might be to understanding creation, paths that maybe got suppressed or forgotten.
It certainly challenges you to consider what else might be out there.
Absolutely. These ancient texts, whether you take them as literal history or symbolic myth, they raise that vital question. What other narratives are waiting to be found? Narratives that could fundamentally reshape how we see ourselves, our place in the universe. They really challenge us to consider what gets included in our accepted knowledge, and maybe more importantly, what gets excluded and why. How do those choices shape everything?
Yeah. As our source material puts it, kind of bluntly, don't you guys want to know this stuff?
Right. A good question.
It's a reminder, isn't it? There's always more to learn, always different ways to see the world. Maybe the biggest takeaway isn't about finding the single right answer, but valuing the search itself, the value of seeking out all these perspectives.
And asking those really uncomfortable fundamental questions about reality, the divine, and where we came from. Question everything.
Yeah. Exactly. Food for thought, definitely.